meantime, the president may be closer to deciding on possible airstrikes on ISIS terrorist targets in Syria, as we hear new reports that the White House is now trying to get our allies to support any new military mission. Welcome, everybody. Brand new hour now of America's Newsroom. We're glad to have you with us this morning. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Eric Sean. Hello, Martha, and good morning, everyone. I'm in for Bill Hemmer this morning. But this comes as a United Nations panel accuses ISIS of war crimes, with attacks and mass murders in 2 cities in Syria. Accusations that may bolster any case for expanding the air campaign.
Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry joins us now. So, Ed, what's the latest in terms of where the president is on the issue of a broader involvement on the part of the United States in Syria?
Well, Martha, there's very conflicting signals right now. I mean, number one, he appears to be edging in some ways closer to expanding those airstrikes into Syria. He had a meeting late yesterday here with Secretary of State John Kerry, who's been a very forceful advocate in many recent months and even the last couple of years. Remember, it was a year ago this very week that it was Secretary of State Kerry who went out publicly and made the case for intervention in Syria back then over chemical weapons. Now Secretary Kerry, another very forceful advocate about doing potentially airstrikes and other things inside Syria. But we've got to remember, a year ago, the president went up to the line, pulled back. The other interesting element here is there's now a lot of speculation about what's happening in northern Iraq. You'll remember the mission where this all started a few weeks back to deal with the religious minorities who were stuck on the mountain, that humanitarian mission. Now the White House may be looking at a new humanitarian mission, other minorities being targeted by ISIS inside Iraq. So before they take on a new mission inside Syria, they may have to deal with Iraq as well, because that's not finished, Martha.
Yeah, this Turkmen group that they're saying that we may give humanitarian aid to as well. But that sort of goes to the narrative that this is piecemeal, Ed, that it's, sort of one thing here and one thing there, does it not?
It certainly puts more pressure on the president, Martha, you're right, because, look, yesterday in this American Legion speech in Charlotte, North Carolina, we were listening very closely for clues on, is the president going to finally lay out a full strategy for dealing with ISIS in Iraq, Syria, and, by the way, potentially Jordan and other countries that ISIS is trying to spread throughout. We didn't hear that. Instead, we heard the president very forcefully say, look, I'm going to protect Americans around the globe. I'm going to seek justice for the beheading of James Foley, but, again, is not spelling out for the world, not just Americans, but for the world, our allies and others, to build a coalition and figure out what are the next steps here in this strategy. So there is pressure on them, no doubt, Martha.
What a moment in this presidency, and everybody waiting to see what action will or will not be taken. Ed, thank you so much.
Good to see you.
And for more on this, I'm joined by Fox News strategic analyst Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Colonel Peters, it seems that the president is very narrowly focusing on protecting specific American interests versus a wider attempt at getting at ISIS. Do you think that this will work?
I think the president's narrowly focused on protecting his reputation, what's left of it, and I'm furious. But no, I mean, Eric, we have no strategy. We have nothing that even pretends to be a strategy. There is no integrated concept of how to deal with ISIS, let alone the metastasizing threats across the Middle East and North Africa. The administration continues to see everything in terms of political advantage. Classic case. We should not know that there are surveillance drones over Syria, but the administration purposely leaked it to journalists because they want to say, well, we're doing something. And by telling people and telling ISIS that we are surveilling them with drones, it says, get ready. Hide your vehicles, disperse, get the human shields ready. It flies in the face of all military common sense and decency. I mean, what's the big difference between this administration leaking stuff and Ed Snowden at this point? It's just disgraceful.
Well, we know where the training bases are. We know where those camps are. We can see it in Syria. Why haven't we taken them out already?
Because the president is a minimalist. He always wants to do not the minimum for the security of the United States, but the minimum he can get away with. He's not a doer. He's a talker. He's at heart a very timid man, a Hamlet forever, to be or not to be. He will go down in history as the great procrastinator. And yes, we've known where they were. It is a lie that the White House wasn't warned. The intelligence community has been watching these guys for well over a year, tried to brief the president on it. White House didn't want to hear it. Now we're hearing, oh, it's an intelligence failure. No, it's not an intelligence failure. It's a failure of leadership in the White House, and we had better get serious soon, because ISIS, without any hyperbole or exaggeration of any kind, Islamic State, this emerging caliphate, the world's first terrorist state, is a far graver threat, a bigger, richer, more powerful, more numerous threat than Al-Qaeda ever was.
And what is the result of what you call that procrastination? I mean, defenders in the White House would say that he's kept us out of a war, that he is very narrowly defining the interest for the United States. But what do you see coming in the next 6 months? Especially when we have someone like Douglas MacArthur McCain, this kid born in Illinois who goes off and embraces Islam and is killed fighting for ISIS over there.
Well, the problem, Eric, is that the president himself used the word cancer to describe Islamic State and the threat it poses. And, you know, cancer doesn't get better on its own. And first he tried for over a year to ignore this cancer. Now he wants to shave off little pieces of the tumor. But it's a malignant tumor, and it's growing fast. And he didn't keep us out of war. He delayed our entry into a war, left us unprepared, cutting our military, while the Islamic State and other Islamist terrorist groups grow ever stronger. It's no longer a classic terrorist web of cells. Islamic State is now it's a proto-state with an army that's well-equipped and well-organized, well-trained and veteran, and they're running all over everybody else on the ground. And the president, I mean, it seems like the only decision that guy is willing to make is which golf club to use.
All right, Ralph, we got to leave it at that. We have some breaking news. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.